This weekend, well, this last weekend that we've just had, a couple of announcements. The government has announced that they'll be cracking down on gangs. Some legislation, pitched for this week along those lines. And an interesting documentary last night on the telly, not sure if you've seen it, but it asked questions about, hey, look, is this strategy going to work? And where do we get the balance right between cracking down on the bad guys and just running roughshod over people's human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, etc.? Well, joining us on the program now from the Free Speech Union, Jonathan Ayling. Jonathan, kia ora, good morning.
Tamarie.
This is a little bit of a contentious issue, but if it is free speech for everybody, that includes free speech of people that we don't like and that we find a bit threatening and intimidating. It applies to, if not everybody, then no one, perhaps.
Look, there are quite a limited number of arguments that are made in favor of censorship.
Yep.
And you see the same arguments emerge, whether it's coming from the conservative side of the spectrum or the progressive, the left or the right.
Yep.
And so there's kind of three core arguments that are used at the moment to justify limiting and squashing the free expression rights of gangs, which is what the government is proposing through a number of changes. One of them is to say that they can't wear their gang patches in public, which is an out and out free expression issue. And so there's kind of three arguments that are made to justify it. Well, they're criminals. They're outlaws. They're the lowly of our society. Why should we care about their free expression rights? And you're absolutely right that free expression and free speech either is for all or it's not at all. It's this radical idea that individuals get to say or express themselves without retribution on their ideas and their expression, not their actions.
Yeah.
And so we want to draw a really clear line and say, if there is criminal activity, absolutely, you crack down on that criminal activity. If they are breaking laws that already exist, you absolutely enforce those laws. Don't create new laws, though, that undermine their civil liberties and set a really bad precedent. The second argument is intimidation, that they're criminals. We've already covered that off, and they're going to be intimidating people by wearing these gang patches. Well, that's pretty much the same argument that is made against so many other communities whose free speech and free expression we protect.
Yep.
When, for example, maybe the rainbow community feel intimidated by certain forms of expression or certain forms of speech. Maybe some Muslim or other religious minority communities feel intimidated by others expressing opinions that run fundamentally counter to them. That's not an acceptable argument there, and it's not an acceptable argument now. And the third is, well, and this is what we heard the Prime Minister say very concerningly, rights and responsibilities.
Yep.
If you don't live up to the responsibilities you have, you don't get your rights. That's not how human rights work. And unfortunately, we've seen erosion of this idea. Our chief human rights commissioner made very similar comments when it came to the treatment of certain communities following the debate around hate speech laws. That unless you're living up to certain responsibilities where you don't get certain rights, well, that's not a right then. That's a payment. That's a quid pro quo. These are the same arguments we've heard on the other side of the fence. They don't wash there, and they don't wash now.
Yeah, I mean, there is a relationship between rights and responsibilities, and it flows off the tongue from a rhetoric point of view because of alliteration, of course. But one doesn't cancel out the other. If you don't meet your responsibilities, you have no rights. That doesn't wash. But to say because of the rights that you have some responsibilities to participate in society, and you're certainly encouraged to do so, to respect the rights of other people, for example. I mean, there is a relationship, but not, hey, if not this, then that cancels out the other, I suppose.
Very well put, Andrew. You're absolutely right. No, I'm certainly not insinuating that we don't have duties towards one another.
Yep.
But if we do not live up to those duties, it's not to say that we lose the dignity of the basic essence and the freedoms that we are born with as well. And I'm at pain to constantly say we must remember the government does not give us these freedoms. The government does not give us these rights. These rights are intrinsically ours. And within this context, I'd say clearly because of our belief in the Imago Dei. But what the government's role is to protect these freedoms and to protect these rights. It is not the government's to decide whether it gives or takes, because the government is not the one who has provided us with these freedoms and these rights. It is their job to make sure that they are secure. And so in this context, I can relate to the impulse that many people have. Censorship is a very human impulse,
Yep.
but it's a slippery slope. And I ask your listeners, what is a gang? How do we define that? Uh, and I'm concerned that what is a patch as well?
Yep.
I'm concerned that many of these labels could easily be imposed on communities. We're willing for them to be imposed on communities we don't associate with very much, probably.
Yep.
But they could very easily be imposed on communities we do associate with frequently. And what happens then?
Just some questions on this one, because some people sort of get lost in some of the weeds and some of the definitions here, and just to get your view on it. What, say, for example, a gang insignia or a gang patch includes another insignia? What if, for example, the Nazi swastika was a part of a gang patch, and given the history of that particular emblem, deeply offensive to many communities, would there be a case for saying that actually wearing a swastika in a public place is something which should be banned, or even in the context of a gang patch? What's your thoughts?
Look, Andrew, again, I want to underline that I absolutely relate to that impulse. And unfortunately, this is the state of doing media. Individuals will be uncharitable and characterize me as now defending swastikas.
Yep.
I have no interest in doing that. But what I have an interest in doing is defending individuals' right to tell us who they are, and to express themselves freely. They have no right to act in whatever way they want. But I don't know what we achieve in a society by stopping people from revealing who they are. And so if an individual feels associated and connected to the swastika and all that represents, and wants to communicate that to the public, why would we not want to listen to what that person is telling us? They're not telling us very good things about themselves.
No.
And I think our law enforcement and our leaders should probably be aware of who these people are. By banning the swastika, we do nothing to ban the heritage and the history and the atrocity and the trauma that comes with that. All we do is treat a symptom. And Jonathan Rauch is a famous American free speech advocate. He'll be coming to New Zealand in a few months. We're bringing him for a tour. And he said that banning words or banning expression is like trying to deal with climate change by breaking all the thermometers. All of a sudden, we don't see the impact of it, but that doesn't mean the impact isn't there.
Yeah.
And it's a fool's errand. Censorship doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so we need to come up with far more creative ways. Are gangs peddlers of misery and trauma? Yes. Do we need to address that? Unquestioningly. Do we do that by stopping them from wearing patches? By no means.
I mean, the same, I suppose, will apply to the use of obscene language written in text in gang patches or facial tattoos, that type of stuff. The same principle applies in your mind for that, Jonathan?
Look, I don't think it's the government's role to tell us we can't swear in public. There are more limitations that are socially acceptable in terms of primetime television or radio or whatever that might be. Look, I'm not going to get my knickers in a twist over that, but I don't swear, Andrew, and that's my choice. And if someone else chooses to, I will find that offensive.
Yep.
And they have a right to offend me in public. They don't have a right to come into my private context and do that. But in public, we share a space there. And the way our societies in the West have evolved so that we can share those spaces peacefully is through recognizing basic human rights. The peace and the stability and the prosperity of the West is the exception in human history, not the rule. Not 500 years ago in Western Europe, it was very common for people to simply be killed, not for having the wrong religion, but just having the wrong creed within the right religion. Christians used to kill each other endlessly. And we came across this liberating idea that individuals should be able to believe according to their conscience and express those beliefs as long as they're not inciting direct violence. But that doesn't mean they're free to act in whatever way possible. And that has led to the greatest prosperity and stability humanity has ever known. And we're at a point in history, and we're at a point in the West where we're turning our backs on a number of these core values. And this is just one tiny expression in one small, relatively insignificant country that is a track further along in that direction. And we're saying, hang on a second, guys, this doesn't end well for any of us.
Now, I'm sure that, well, as an advocate for freedom of speech, you will get a certain amount of pushback on this issue. And, well, as an advocate for free speech, you welcome people disagreeing with your view on this particular instance. Or, of course, they're welcome to agree with you as well. All of those opinions welcome at the Free Speech Union website and social media, and encourage people to check it out there, fsu.nz. Jonathan, thank you for the stand that you're taking. Thank you for the work that you do.
Cheers, Andrew.
Thanks for joining us on Rhema. Now, if you found value in today's content, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel with the subscribe button. This really helps us to continue to produce more quality content for you. And hey, if you'd like to stay updated and never miss any of our future videos, ring that notification bell as well. Don't forget to follow us on our other socials, which are in the description below. And until then, stay tuned.